When you reach 500 episodes of the same thing, some people might say that you should look back and reflect upon what could be done better. But you know what? I think we bloody smashed this. This is the Arsenal transfer show for the 500th time. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time for, as I said before, our episode 500 of this series. It is, of course, and has been plenty more than 500 mornings that I've joined you for because we have the Arsenal News Show, which is on 300 and something episodes. We've done the Raw Reaction shows, which also have been going for a couple of seasons now, so we're closing in on about 1,000 morning shows, really. But of this specific, and the transfer show was the one that kicked it all off. This is the one that started it all. So it's great. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching and listening this whole time that you have been. It means the absolute world. And I've put a little poll into the chat box because the difference for today's show, I'll be very honest with you, there's no kind of like streamers and banners and anything special, but I just thought, what can we do slightly differently for the show? So I thought, why not turn in part 2 into a Q&A? Now I am working to a time constraint this morning, so it will be done by before 9 or before the hour. But we are gonna open up the phone lines for part 2 for our Q&A, so that your questions can be on screen and you can be on screen and ask questions. So I'll leave a link to that in the chat box shortly, but because it's going to be against the clock, it will be a case of first come, first serve. So be ready. If you haven't got the StreamYard app, download the StreamYard app. That's the best way to get on the show, because the link will take you straight into the app. So there you go. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Good morning to you all. We've got Peekahoo, we've got Jamil, we've got Darbas, we've got Angela, Mr. Reese, Simple, Josh, Jose, GT, Carl, we've got Z, we've got Lars, Barry, Matt G. I mean, some of these names that I'm reading out, for those that have been tuning in since episode 1, will probably recognize some of these names that have really been with us for 500 episodes. Matt G in particular, definitely been a key part of that. But I recognise so many other names there. Sean, Damien, Rowan, Paul, Stephen, Shiv, Wilson, definitely. Jean, Jakob, Temi has been with us a long time. Maximius has been with us a very, very long time. Zed Tom as well. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in. It means the absolute world. Lynn in the chat box. Lynn's been a regular with us for a very, very long time as well. Morgie, of course, too. Who is an absolute pleasure to always see at games as well. Always comes and says hello in the press box. So good morning to you, Shari. One of our growing kind of female listenerships as well, which is always fantastic to see too. I remember when I started this and I checked like the you can go onto like YouTube and check kind of how your audience splits in terms of gender, and I think it was like 99.5% male. It's now like 96%, but that's growth. That's still growth, and that's important. I think that's great to highlight too. And I should also tell you that this morning I got an email suggesting that we've actually reached the top 130 British sports podcasts. So we're 130 in Britain for sports podcasts, which again is brilliant. That's not YouTube numbers, by the way. That's for you that listen on catch up, which is obviously from when we started the show not been a regular thing. That's been something that started later on down the line, audio versions of this show. So if you are an audio listener or you're a Spotify listener, thank you for your listenership as well. You help us reach those bigger numbers. So thank you for that. And the members as well. The Global House Sitters joining up as a brand new member of the show this morning. And Josh has been a member now for 17 months. We've had members in this channel a bit in here for, the best part of 3, sometimes even 4 years. So thank you for your very kind support. Absolutely fantastic. But yes, I'll leave a link in the chat box to the how to join part 2 of the show, where you can have your questions answered on screen. But as I said, download the StreamYard app, and that's your best way to get on. But let's, without further ado, not waste any more time. Please make sure you drop a like on the video, of course, as well, and help us to reach 1,000 as we always do. Should we try and go for 2,000 today? I feel like we should. Let's set the target of 2,000. So if you've not dropped a like already, please do. If you're not a usual person who thinks, oh, I can't be asked to drop a like, today is your day. Drop a like on the video. Let's try and get to 2K on our 500th episode. If you're listening on catch up, hop over to YouTube. Help the cause. We're going to need you as we try and hit 2K today. But yes, yesterday I was a bit worried, a bit concerned because I couldn't see Riccardo Calafiori in training. He was in none of the photos, none of the pictures, but thankfully, as was then tweeted to me by so many of you saying I could calm down, Calafiori has indeed been spotted. He has been spotted in training, as you can see by the image here. He is involved, and hopefully that means we will see him involved in the game tomorrow against Bayer Leverkusen. So fingers crossed, Riccardo Calafiori will be able to see him for the first time in an Arsenal shirt, properly playing in tomorrow's game against Bayer Leverkusen, of which I'm going to be at. Very excited to be there. Can't wait to get back to the Emirates once again. Meanwhile, of course, we talked previously about there being some reports that Arsenal were monitoring the situation between Julian Alvarez and where he might go. Well, Julian Alvarez is seemingly off to Atletico Madrid. The Argentinian international is closing in on a £70 million+ move to the Spanish side, who, of course, will be letting go of one of their players to Chelsea. One of their youngsters looks like going in quite a big deal as well. It's crazy to me that Chelsea are still spending these huge sums of money on players. It's absolutely maddening to think how on earth they're doing it. But Amorodian is the striker that's being linked with the move. Can't say I know too much about the guy, but Chelsea looking heavily at him at this point in time as well. But Julian Alvarez seemingly going to be moving to from Manchester City to Atletico Madrid for a very big fee. Into Arsenal transfer news, Mikel Merino spotted back at Real Sociedad. They released a video yesterday of their players from the European Championships returning to action. The likes of Martin Zubimendi, etc., also joining Moreno back at the club. However, there's been reports that's come out also yesterday from Spain suggesting that the potential for a one-year extension in Mikel Merino's contract could be a reality, and that he waits, therefore, for Barcelona for another year. That will not come as a positive to the ears of Arsenal fans around the world. But what it does do is, again, I think brings people back to reality somewhat of this whole situation. It is not a done deal. There is still a lot to be done in this situation, a lot that needs to change for this deal to happen. And these, suggestions from Spanish media that a one-year extension is still a possible outcome, I think showcases that. I still think that it's a deal that will be done. I still would expect this deal to be done. I still expect him to join Arsenal. I'm hopeful of that, and I want him to because I think he'd be an excellent signing for us. But again, it's certainly one to keep an eye on, and we'll continue to break you any stories surrounding this in the mornings to come following this one as well. But our headline story of the day is on Viktor Gyokeres. O Jogo, the Portuguese outlet, suggesting that Arsenal are not giving up hope of potentially landing the Swedish international striker. The Gyokeres links just will not go away. They just continue to keep popping up and breaking into the mainstream. And look, if it happens, I think it's an exciting signing. I just think it's a huge gamble for Arsenal to take. If they can afford to take the gamble, it would be a surprise to me, because considering what Arteta has said and considering, we still need to sell, I think, a fair few players. I just can't see Gyokeres happen to at least Eddie Nketiah has been sold. But very exciting to see the links not die down completely, because it gives you that semblance of hope that something could still happen for Viktor Gyokeres and potentially Arsenal in the future, which is what we want. We would like to see Arsenal's land a striker, of course. I think a winger is actually more important, but it would be very exciting to end the summer with a signing like Gyokeres. Perhaps equally as exciting as the potential to add a fantastic service that would keep you safe and secure online. And I've got a suggestion for you on our 500th show, because I am 500% sure that NordVPN is indeed the service for you when it comes to VPNs. If you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, of course, you can get yourself a discount for 1 or 2 year plan, and you get 4 months extra free on top of that with a 2-year plan too. It's the ability to, of course, keep you safe online by keeping your data safe. Stops people from looking at what you're doing. If you're going around the internet unprotected, you do so at your own risk. But VPNs are the modern 2024 way to keep you safe. But not only that, but it gives you the superpower of changing your geolocation, so your mobile, your tablet, or your laptop thinks that it is somewhere else in the world, giving you access, of course, to things that wouldn't typically be available in your country of origin. I often use it when I'm going abroad and looking back at Match of the Day, watching Match of the Day, or watching some of the highlights on TNT Sports, etc. It's really good for that. So I recommend, if you are to help support the channel and you want to get a VPN this season, Nord is the way to go. Just make sure you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner. All the links down in the description. And if you're not happy with the service for whatever reason, you get a 30-day money back guarantee as well. So go and check it out. Right, we're going to go to part 2 in your questions. I'm now going to leave a link to our StreamYards in the chat box, because part 2 today is going to become a Q&A. So if you'd like to join the show, it is going to be first come, first serve. I'm not going to be able to get everyone on if there's a lot of people coming. So if you want to get on the show, you're going to have to be quick. You're going to need a webcam. You're going to need to be over the age of 18. You're going to have a good internet connection. And ideally, I'm going to have to be able to hear you. Please make sure you're in a quiet environment as well. All of that lovely stuff. But yes, I'll keep putting the chat box. I'll keep putting the link into the chat box so you don't miss out on it, because I see there's a lot of messages coming in. So yes, keep scrolling, keep finding it. But part 2, we're going to go to your questions, hopefully from some callers. I know it's very early in the morning, but it's the I've got today. So let's see how it goes. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we tackle your questions and more on this 500th episode of the Arsenal Transfer Show. I'll leave once again another link down in the chat box. Be quick. I can already see people lining up, which is fantastic. So let's get our first caller on. It's Mohammed. Mohammed, how you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Where are you joining me from, mate?
Bristol.
Bristol. I love Bristol. It's a good night out, Bristol. I rate it.
Yeah. How are you, Tom? Good morning. First time on the show.
Indeed. Thank you for calling in. Very much appreciate it. What's your question this morning?
What do you want to see happen with the number 10? Would it?
Yeah, the number 10. Do we play with number 10, really? It's kind of like an advanced 8 these days, isn't it? With Ødegaard in that position. I think that obviously there's a future for Ethan Nwaneri, definitely in that position for us. But I think that there's going to be scope to see him and Ødegaard probably play together and play alongside one another. Do you think we need to bring in a signing in that position?
No, I'm just thinking the actual shirt number.
Oh, I see. Oh, so you went. Oh, okay. So I completely. The first question of the day, and I've messed it up already. But I think that they might hold it this season. They should probably hold it, because I think you have to earn the number 10. Do you not think? So I think holding it, unless you think we should give it to someone else. Who do you think should get it?
I was thinking, if we want to make a big name luring, then to try and use that as an incentive. Let's say, it seems a bit unlikely now, but let's say like a Nico Williams, if you wanted to try and bring him in and get in that race, perhaps that is an additional incentive. It's a pristine shirt to be wearing in North London.
It is. And I know obviously Ødegaard as well, he's spoken previously about wanting that number 10. Apparently he wanted it when he first signed, but Smith Rowe had kind of already bagsied it. So maybe
it's his own now that he's like...
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see him needing to change, because that's like the legacy captain's number. You're now the captain. It's a special number now. I don't see it happening. Ødegaard taking the number 10.
Yeah, no, I think that I think you raise a good point. It'd be interesting to see if he does want to take that number. Maybe it's something that he gets asked about tomorrow at the game against Leverkusen. But it's going to be an interesting one to see if he does take it. Mohammed, thank you so much for your listenership, by the way. I really appreciate your time.
Cheers. I need to get to work anyway, so thank you.
Enjoy. Have a good day, my friend. That is the risk I have of doing this Q&A at 8 a.m. is that there's people on the way to work, which I understand is definitely going to be. Or if you're elsewhere in the world, of course, it might be that you're even in bed at this point. We've got a couple of other callers as well. I can see JR down below, although at the moment I'm looking at his ceiling because I don't know if he's ready or not. King, if you've got your camera as well. Oh, I know what JR was doing. He was going and put an Arsenal shirt on is what he was doing. How you doing, JR? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, very good, my friend. Very good indeed. Talk to me. What's your question?
Well, I had so many questions, and now I'm just going to go back to the original one.
Go for it.
So I read recently that we get money for guys that play in Europe. Since our guys got to the final, can that money be put in the FFP, or can it add up to it, or is it insignificant?
From my understanding, so there's kind of two ways in which teams get money or save money when their players play on international tournaments. Basically, what happens is obviously the wages get covered by the federation or the association of that specific nation. And if, say, a player gets injured while on international duty, the federation or the association will pay the players' wages for the duration of their injury. So when Gabriel Jesus got that knee injury for Brazil, we weren't paying his wages. The Brazilian federation would have been paying it. I'm not sure about if indeed the further they get in a tournament, like Arsenal get money for it. I mean, you might be right. But that's all I've understood about it. I will double check it for you. What was the other questions while I'm frantically Googling, just so I've got time to look into it?
Well, I have to apologize because it's 3 a.m., so it's really hard to get.
Where are you joining us from? States?
From
Stateside?
St. Lucia. From St. Lucia, we just won our gold medal. Julian Alvarez, big up.
I watched it. Fantastic, that was. She absolutely smashed that race. By far and away, the most comfortable winner in that race. Yeah. So
the first thing I posted was mind the gap.
Yeah, because it was a big gap between her and the rest of the field as well. I'm just looking into this story. It's a story suggesting that FIFA are to pay clubs $209 million for player World Cup participation, but I don't know if that's from 2022. So that was Qatar.
Because what the guy posted was there's a classification between clubs. So some clubs are classified higher than others, and they get more per player based on what their classification is. But I couldn't figure out what our classification was.
Ours will be. I imagine it's probably dependent upon your coefficient. We're in the top 20 clubs in UEFA coefficients at the moment. It says teams would receive $10,000 per player per day, or the player is involved in the Qatar-based tournament. This is obviously for the World Cup back then. The payments will go to all clubs, and the player is played for in the 2-year period prior to the World Cup. So yeah, you were right. Players. I mean, I don't think it's like such a significant amount that it would really improve our PSR situation, but it's something. So I mean, I wouldn't personally turn down a few million quid if it got offered our way, but I suppose it is of a benefit. But I don't think it would be so beneficial that it would change how we can spend on players, if that makes sense.
All right, one quick question: who will be the surprise player of the season?
Martinelli. I think he's going to have a renaissance season, is what I would describe it as. So
yeah, I'm feeling that. All right, I'm going back to bed.
Please do. Thank you, mate.
All right.
See you soon. Fantastic stuff. JR joining us there from St. Lucia. Yeah, amazing achievement. That race. And I actually been watching a lot more of the Olympics in the last couple of days, and my parents are telling me about kind of this. I didn't watch it, but this kayaking event where like they drop from a height and then like battle it out down a ridiculous like level stream or something, and it's ridiculous. I saw the rock climbing world record get broken. It was like 6.06 seconds or something. It's been a really good I've forgotten the girl's name, the 800-meter winner yesterday for Great Britain. Richardson, I think it was Keely Hodgkinson. Fantastic achievement for her as well. So it's been a really good. Even though I've been watching it more recently, I've been sucked into it somewhat. All right, King. I know I've been messing around with you because you've been turning your camera on and off like crazy. Hopefully we're going to get King on the show if he's watching. If he's driving though, King, you will have to pull over. I can't have you on while you're driving. Hopefully you're stationary. I think he is. King, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a while.
It has, mate. I mean, considering this is our 500th show, I reckon you've been tuning in since episode 1.
Yeah, I have. It's been quite a journey to see you and to see the platform from day one until now. So I'm proud of you. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know obviously you've gone through a lot personally in the years we've been doing this show as well. So it's fantastic to see you and with you on the show as well again. What's your question?
Yeah, it's more in regards to the attack. And for me, I know a lot of people say the attack is not an issue, but when you look at the start of the season, a lot of the games that we dropped points was Liverpool. We didn't score against them.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't score against Aston Villa,
mm-hmm.
and we didn't score against West Ham, and we didn't score enough against Fulham. And this was at a time where the attack was not fluid, and even we didn't score a lot of goals from open play for a team as good as Arsenal. So a lot of our goals came from either direct from corners, free kicks, penalties, or second phase from set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, do you think that we do need to improve on the attack, or is the attack good enough for this season?
I think that if we can improve the attack of this team, it's something we should look to do. I think that the central midfield is, for me, our priority area at the moment. We need to make sure we bring in a central midfielder. I think that's really, really important. But if we don't end up bringing in a centre forward, I sincerely hope that we look to bring in, a winger. I was just looking at those games that you brought up. The Fulham, we did score against Fulham, but it was a bit of a nothing goal. Saka got it. It was a really weird, strange finish that put us 1-0 up in 5 minutes, but they obviously came back and won 2-1. That day, Eddie Nketiah played up front against Fulham. Jesus played up front against West Ham in the 2-0 defeat at the Emirates, and he also played up front in the 1-0 defeat at Aston Villa as well. The common theme across all those games is that Kai Havertz didn't play up front in those fixtures. And of course, Kai Havertz in the second half of the season really did make that centre forward position his own. And as a result, we had a really strong second half of the season where we only ended up losing that one game against Aston Villa in the league in 2024. So I think that starting the season with Kai Havertz as our centre forward is important, and I really hope that we do end up doing that, despite, of course, him playing in midfield against Liverpool. I hope that Arteta doesn't revert into that area, but you can never guarantee what Arteta's going to do because he's so unpredictable at times of his decision-making. And what I would say about the market for strikers is it's a question of who. I mean, who would you go for, King, if you had to sign someone?
Well, always the dream signing would have been Alexander Isak, but we do know it's not realistic because, number one, he doesn't want to leave, and number two, Newcastle don't want to sell. So when people say that, but just pay the money, but he has to want to leave first, and they have to be open to sell. And the number two for me would be Viktor Gyokeres. I've always had question marks in regards to Victor Osimhen. I don't think that he has the attributes that suits Arsenal because I don't think he's technically good enough to get the attackers into play. So you know how important it is to get Saka, to link up with him, to link up with Martinelli, to link up with Ødegaard and Trossard. And I just don't think that Osimhen is good at that. I think Osimhen is more a striker who likes to run behind, who likes to use his physicality, his pace, and his aerial threat. He's more a box centre forward. He's not like a link-up centre forward. And I think with Viktor Gyokeres, he can actually do a bit of both. So technically, he's okay. He's not amazing, but he's okay. I think he's good enough technically. But he's also very fast and he's strong, and he's shown that he can carry the ball long distance. So, and also, we've seen a lot of strikers coming from the Championship, like Jamie Vardy, like Oliver Watkins, like Ivan Toney, and they've done very well in the Premier League. So he has that English kind of tax where he's played in the Championship, but he's also gone abroad to Europe. It's done well there. So I think he's ready, age-wise as well. He's not too young, but he's not old. So he would be my number two if the price is correct. But I would rather buy a winger, and if Newcastle don't get Champions League next season, I think there could be an opportunity to get Isak.
Absolutely. I think that Isak is the one, but you're not going to get him during this window. So I think that Arsenal shouldn't sign somebody for the sake of it. And if we do that, it could cost us from getting a really, really, really good player in the future. But King, thank you so much, mate, for your time and for jumping on this morning. I'll let you get back to your duties. Thank you, mate. I much appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Kig. Much appreciate it. Lovely stuff. I'm going to get Rob on next. Joe, I can see you're waiting down below. I left you a message in the private chat. Just check that message for me, Joe, before you jump on. Rob, how you doing, mate? You good, you well?
Yeah, kia ora. Not too bad. Not too bad getting through. Yeah. Congratulations on your 500th.
Thank you, mate. Much appreciate that. It's been a long road, but
Great
we're
content.
here.
Great content. And ever onwards and upwards.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. How are things with you?
Yeah, not too bad. The dog's holding on, and I've just been told I'm going to get made homeless again in about 2 months.
I'm sorry to hear that, mate. I hope
it's struggling, but day to day.
Indeed, every day as it comes. Well, I really hope things improve for you, man. I really do. Keep us in the loop and let us know how it goes. What's your question?
So I've posed this to you a number of times, I think, and you keep on saying, "Don't worry about it. It's all fine." But I still have a little bit of anxiety, both around Arteta not having been signed up to his new contract, and also hearing this week some links with Edu to, I think, was it Nottingham Forest? I think the Greek chairman was talking about trying to get him to head up all of the football clubs that he owns.
Yeah.
So my question is, we're constantly, or you're constantly talking, and other online platforms are talking about who's coming in, who's going out, and it's always striker or Mourinho or whoever it is, but there's so little talk about Arteta and Edu. So my question is, if we were to lose them, or if they weren't to sign a contract, Arteta not to sign a new contract, so he'd be gone in 12 months potentially, and Edu was to get headhunted, how important would that be in your mind to Arsenal versus getting any striker, whether it be Isaac or Gyokeres, or even if Mbappe hadn't gone to Real Madrid? In my mind, if we were to lose Arteta and Edu, that would be way more important than any possible striker that we could, or any other player on the pitch we could buy.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely a good point. I think the idea of losing Edu would be really damaging to Arsenal at the moment, because obviously the project that we've undertaken and the process that Arsenal are obviously on at the moment as well. So just thinking about who even would replace Edu is like, we obviously go back and forth about transfer targets, and who we would sign. If Edu was to leave, people wouldn't have a clue, really about like I'm sure there'd be some people who would have some of their eyes on certain figures at different clubs and that, but it would be really difficult to replace Edu. There would obviously be, I think, something of a power vacuum as well that would generate, that people would obviously at the club maybe want to try and fill. I think Arteta would be very conscious about who's taking over. If he was to leave now, when you've got a situation where, Edu is so involved in both the men's and the women's team, and then we're in a situation whereby he leaves, Arteta's going to be wanting that person to come in who he's then worked with for 4 or 5 years to be the perfect figure to take over, isn't he? So that's hard. And I think you're right. It is more important than a potential transfer. But at the same time, you can't be beholden to one. And no one person's bigger than the club. And I always come back to that side of things. But I think you're right to point out that the weight of losing a figure like Edu in the hierarchy would ultimately be really difficult to replace. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yeah, pretty much. I just wonder as well, like how much it might be affecting potential signings, because
yeah, of course.
If you've got someone like Merino or even Šeško, I wonder, like, has this affected them, like being willing to actually stump up and sign the contract? Because if Arteta hasn't done it and there's questions around Edu, especially Arteta, because I'm sure these players are massively drawn to Arsenal because of the not just the project in inverted commas, but the quality of the coach, So without that being sort of signed, sealed and delivered, I do wonder whether some of these players are like, well, maybe I'll just hang on for a year at my club and wait and see.
And Arteta's Arteta's not obviously signed that new deal yet. We're still doing business. I think there is kind of unwritten feeling that he will renew his contract, but that lack of knowledge on the surface, at least before talks are taking place, is going to cause some questions for people. I'm going to let you get back to your dog snoring, Rob, and we can hear him in the background.
This is the best she's been for a while, so I'm happy with that.
I'm really good, mate. Fantastic. As I say,
right,
please keep us in the loop, Rob.
And here's the next 500.
Indeed. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Keep us in the loop, mate, and I really hope things improve for you.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, pal. Right, we're going to get Joe on. I think he's got his dad with him. How you doing, Joe? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good stuff. I just need your dad's permission, so because you're under 18, if that's all right.
You have my permission.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate that.
How
are you doing, Joe?
You have my permission.
No worries. No worries. Are we good, Joe? Thank you for listening, mate.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've got 2 questions.
Go for it, man.
One's a bit more vague. One is because we've been talking about how Gyokeres is kind of more unlikely because of the price and maybe because it's a massive gamble because he hasn't played in the Premier League. He's played in the Championship at Coventry, but not in the Premier League. Who do you suggest that we go for? Who is your kind of dream striker if we were to go for one?
I think, Alexander Isak at Newcastle would be the dream option at the moment because he's got Premier League experience. He's ready to come straight into the team. And I think he's also overcome a lot of those injury issues that he's been suffering with recently as well. So I think you look at somebody like Isak and his profile, the speeds, the height, the technical ability that he possesses, and all of those things combined, I think, to give you, and Arteta, and to my understanding, Arteta is a big fan of Isak, but sadly, the reality is that Newcastle have zero, and you would understand that, zero intention of letting Isak leave. And I don't think that Arsenal's dream striker is available during this window either. So that makes things really, really difficult. Who would be yours out of interest?
My dream, I think I would love to see Arsenal go for Gyokeres. It was Šeško, but then he signed his new deal at Leipzig. And but honestly, right now, I think Gyokeres or Osimhen, both unlikely, but out of the both of them, I think Gyokeres looks the more likely, but it's very high, and I don't think either of them are going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's really difficult. I think that a winger is probably the more likely position that we end up going for between now and the end of the window. If there are any wingers that you'd want to see Arsenal sign?
Well, yeah, that leads me on to my next question. Obviously, the obvious one is everyone would like to see Arsenal go for Nico Williams, but it's really unlikely. Barcelona are the front runners in that. But leads you on to the next question is yesterday coming out of AFC stuff on Twitter. Yeah. What do you make of the Barış Alper Yilmaz links? Do you think that's like a Borja Mayoral thing again?
Yeah, well remembered.
That has some credibility to it?
Because the Borja Mayoral stuff came out, and I remember speaking to someone at the club, and they were like, what? So, yeah, that never was the case. And, earlier in the window as well, and January, you probably saw links to Ferdi Kaliolu, who was the other Turkish player that we were linked to at Fenerbahce, a fullback. That also came to nothing. So I have my skepticisms around the Turkish links at the moment. I can't say I know too much about Yilmaz as a player at all. I remember the former striker Yilmaz at Galatasaray. He was also linked to Arsenal a fair few years ago, but I don't know too much about the other guy. But I haven't heard anything on my end specifically about him being linked, but I do know that Arsenal need a winger, and I think that us bringing in competition attacker is really important. I like Williams like you. I think that would be excellent, but I think he wants Barcelona, or he's willing to wait for Barcelona, and that makes that situation really tricky. But Joe, thank you so much for your call, mate, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Oh yeah, one thing.
Oh yeah, go on very quickly.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, well.
Stay respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.
Absolutely, man. Up the Arsenal, bud. Thank you, pal. Appreciate it. Lovely stuff. As a former teacher, it's always important to get the parents' permission on the show whenever we're having any of our under 18 listeners. But fantastic to see, we've got such a wide range of a community here, and it's important to highlight that. Tom's on next. Let's get Tom on. How you doing, Tom? You good, Joel?
How you hear me?
I can indeed. I need to get your parents' permission as well, Tom, please. Go for it, man. What's your question?
I wish I looked famous. By the way, I just want to say before my question that I got very lucky today because this is actually the one time this week that I'm working from home. Actually, if I was working from the office, I wouldn't be able. So I
hope your boss ain't
it's
watching.
Usually what?
I hope your boss ain't watching.
No, they're not watching. No worries. They're in the office. I'm not. So look, there have been a lot of talks about. I want to take it from a different perspective. What? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Your audio is going a bit weird. I think it's because you were getting a call through your phone or something.
Yeah. Sorry, someone tried to call me. Just a second.
That's all right.
Let me get the headphones
back. If you put it on Do Not Disturb, then it'll improve the sound because your sound quality has gone very strange all of a sudden.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just a second. I'll get my headphones.
Okay. I'm going to let Tom sort that out because it sounds going to weird. Maybe reconnect your headphones, Tom, as well, and I'll come back to you. We'll get Pear on. How you doing, Pear? You good, Joel? Sorry, I surprised you because I didn't give you any warning whatsoever. How are you doing? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Congrats on the 500 episodes.
Thank you, mate. It's very kind of you indeed. I can hear myself in the background, by the way. Have you got it coming through your speakers?
Yes, I have.
Just turn it down a little bit, and then it will stop the echo.
Is that better?
I'm hoping so. It's going to be you talking mainly anyway, so we should be fine. Tell me your question, man.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've always wanted to say that. My question is, what do you think the future holds for Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney now that Calafiori is in?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask. I'm just going to mute you, by the way, just so that I can't hear the echo because it solves that problem. I think with Tierney, the writing's been on the wall for a while. I think we know that his time at Arsenal would have come to an end a lot sooner if it wasn't for this injury that he's going through. And we still don't really have any info on the severity of that issue. It's thought to be a hamstring problem, not a knee problem, which is usually a good thing because knee problems obviously tend to be a lot worse. It might be that he is out for the entirety of the summer and perhaps into part of the season, and which means that we probably end up having to move him on in January, or it just kind of ends up seeing his contract expire, which would be a shame because there was definitely a sellable asset there in Tierney. In terms of Zinchenko, I have failed to see much interest in him whatsoever. Bayern Munich was talked about because obviously Alphonso Davies was being linked with Real Madrid. That's not yet happened. Vincent Kompany's got the links there with Zinchenko from his time at City, of course, as well. So it makes sense why that link was there. But again, beyond that, it's not really changed. And so because of that, I find it difficult to see Zinchenko leaving. I still think that Zinchenko's got quality to add to this team. I still think that he provides us with, attacking support. I think he's a really good passer and a good spotter of a good pass into the final third. But defensively, there are definitely questions. What are your thoughts out on both of them?
Well, I agree with you on the Zinchenko a bit, and but I think that if we use Calafiori as a part of a three-back line with Gabriel and Saliba, we're defensively tight enough to squeeze Zinchenko in as more of a wing-back with mostly offensive job. I don't know, like his English is not my first language, man.
His responsibilities, duties.
Yeah, his offensive duties mainly being that's his qualities. I think. I think the struggles that he's been having has mostly been defensive struggles. I'm picturing this three-back line: Calafiori, Saliba, Gabriel. And then Ben White and Zinchenko on either side, just doing the wing stuff, overlapping with Saka on the right and Martinelli on the left. I mean,
who do you take out of the other area to play a back three?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. Maybe take out a striker.
You go like the Real Madrid false nine option, I guess. Yeah, you could go with two central midfielders, Havertz as your false nine, and then. But I mean, then you drop in Ødegaard. Like it's tough, isn't it? To who you can take out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Ødegaard can play as a central attacking midfielder, can't he?
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
Maybe
Definitely
take
can.
out Havertz. I don't know.
You could take out Havertz.
Picturing this like in a situation where we're one goal ahead of, say, Man City or a team that and it's like 10 minutes left to play. We just need to secure the 3 points. So for a more defensive approach, just go 5 at the back. I mean,
yeah, I think it's a part of a game where when we're playing against like a City or a Liverpool, etc., maybe we're leading the game going into the final 10-15 minutes. It's something that we will, I think, do. I think Kivior, of course, has something to play in that as well. I think he'll come into the fold in that position too. But yeah, it's definitely an option for us. Where are you joining us, Per, by the way, from? I'm curious.
I'm from Norway, mate.
Fantastic. Big fan of Ødegaard then, yeah?
Yeah, big fan. His parents are from the same small village that I'm from. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Per, for jumping on, and I really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure, man. Yeah, I love your show. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, man.
Up the Arsenal.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Per. Apologies for the echo in the background, guys, by the way, but it was worth it to get Per on because it was a fantastic contribution. And I always, there's always a smirk on my face when anyone ever apologizes for their English because it's always sublime. I don't know about you, but I always find it when anyone apologizes for English being their second language or third language or fourth language, it's always sometimes better than mine. So it always does make me giggle. Right, let's see if we got Tom's audio back. Are we fixed?
Yes. Sorry.
That's right, man. It's all good. It's all good.
What's your question? It's for good reason. So I actually, there've been a lot of talks about the attack, about Gyokeres and about Osimhen and the prices. And I think that one aspect that we've seen this kind of window is the effect of PSR, because we've seen 2 cases where in, let's say, last season, everybody would have expected the release clause to be paying. I mean, we've seen the Benfica case with Julian Alverez, that everybody was saying they were like, there's no way that they will come down from the price. And the same thing with Osimhen. And what I see now, that first of all, you saw PSG actually paying £70. Yeah, of course they also moved Renato Sanchez for the other way around, but it's actually just a 10 million bypass. So technically the whole package is just 80 million compared to the 120 what technically they were supposed to pay for him, which they didn't in the end. And now you see the same thing with Osimhen and Napoli, where they expected people to come in and pay crazy money for him, but now, I mean, they basically struggled to loan him out now for Chelsea for Lukaku in a cut price deal. And that's why I see, and that's why when we talk about Gyokeres, I think that, I know everybody knows they had the £80 release clause, which, Sporting saying that they're expected to get paid and things like this. And what I think is, since we've seen that the factor of the release clause, unlike other years where people kind of expected teams to pay that, or especially Chelsea and PSG were usually the big teams would have paid release clauses because they have the money and for some reason they spend it like crazy. Well, not for some reason, but I do think that there is a chance to get Gyokeres actually for a lower fee. And there were being reported that Arsenal would expect to pay for him like around the 50-60. And this takes me to what Arteta said, that he said that he didn't expect a Declan Rice level signing. But if we do manage to get Gyokeres for the 60-70 million pounds, I mean, if you take it to compared to last year, we paid Havertz the same price. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it's in the level of a Declan Rice signing, and I think it's actually plausible as more, and maybe, I don't know, maybe even we make weight for using Nketiah in some way as part of the exchange. So what do you think of that kind of scenario? Do you think it's a possibility?
I think if Sporting are more amenable than what is being let on at the moment, it's feasible. The problem is that Napoli, Osimhen is kind of really pushing to leave Napoli. And it's always been his intention to move on this summer. Whereas for Gyokeres, there isn't that same desperation to leave Sporting. It's very much a case with Gyokeres that I've had a fantastic season at Sporting. I'm in a great moment here. I can carry on next season, continue to play really well, and still get plenty of interest the next year. But if a move, comes along, I think that he would probably jump at the chance still to move to a club like Arsenal. But
and
there isn't.
That's what I'm saying, because we saw it with Julian Alvarez. I mean, as since when PSG actually kind of came with the offer and Joao never started pushing for the move, it in the end it came a reality for a lower price. So I do think there is a possibility for that kind of scenario. I know the Osimhen is different. It's different reason because you got promised and he's kind of forcing it more. He's forcing it more, but there is a possibility.
Absolutely. Oh, I think you've got duties to go deal with, Tom. So I'll let you get off, mate. I hope you're doing good.
You want to say hi?
Hello.
She's a bit
Tom,
shy.
it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate, and thank you for calling in and for supporting the channel so much as well, mate.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye.
I appreciate your time. It's been Parents Edition today of this show. It's been great. Thank you so much to all of our callers. That brings us to a kind close, unless anyone jumps on in the last few moments. But I just want to take a few minutes just to say a big thank you to all of our listeners. And I very much appreciate the fact that you see some very regular faces on the channel these days. And of course, people on our phone-in shows that tune in and phone in every time. King, Tom, Rob, of course, as well. And plenty of other names. I'll stop naming people, otherwise people will get offended that I've forgotten them. So I won't keep doing that. But it's such a humbling thing doing the show, speaking to you all, building this community, people saying hello when I'm at games or even randomly in the street on a night out. It happens now. It's really odd, but I really appreciate all of the kind support, and to everybody that does support us. We had a couple of nice messages as well. Chris, thank you so much for the very kind donation earlier on the show. I forgot to read it out earlier, but thank you so much to Chris. Chris P has been definitely one of the biggest backers of the channel and a very dedicated listener to us as well. Matt G, of course, has been a member amazingly for 54 months, which is more than 4 years. I think Matt G was one of our first members on the channel and has been with us probably from episode 1 of this. So thank you to Matt and Dave as well, another one of our regular listeners. He used to come onto a lot of our shows as well, our previous shows. I hope that he comes onto future ones as well, because it'd be nice to link up again. Dave, who's been a member now for 45 months on the channel, so nearly 4 years with us too. Thank you so much, Dave, as well, for your kind words, and to the new members, of course, that want to sign. If you want to support the channel, you can do. Just go down to the link in the description. It's not mandatory; you don't have to do it, but if you like to, you can, and you become a member, and you get to start building up your own amount of time that you've supported the channel for, and you'll be talking about how you've been a member for TGT for 4 or 5 years. It's crazy. As I mentioned at the start, we broke into the top 130 British sports podcasts today, which is, again, absolutely fantastic. And for those that do solely and exclusively listen only to audio, because I know you can't stand the sight of watching this ugly mug, you are very appreciated too. So thank you to all of you. A massive thank you to all of the different accounts that, of course, have sponsored us over the years as well and have made this happen. There's going to be a big change in the channel surroundings in my life in the next 6 months, which I'm looking forward to and I'm excited for. I can't really tell you too much about it at the moment, but there's a small hint that things are changing. Don't worry, 8 a.m. show, going nowhere. Your regular listening will continue as normal, but a lot's going to be happening in the next 6 months. And when we're doing our next live show as well, next year, February, I can tell you is when it's going to be. We'll get that confirmed, and tickets will be hopefully on sale in September for our next live event. It's always very, very quick to sell out, and we sold out very quickly last year. So I imagine that we've grown a year older. So I'll make sure to give you plenty of notice before those tickets do go on sale. So if you want to get a ticket, you can. But it will be in London in February with me and a panel of very familiar faces to you, which I'll be looking forward to bringing you once again. No baby, Nick. No baby. Not yet. Maybe one day, but no baby. Not yet. The channel's my baby at the moment. So that takes up plenty of my time. Thank you for your listenership. Thank you for all your kind words. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and the continued support. Do try and help us to reach 2K today. If we can reach 2,000 likes, that would be unbelievable. But it's going to take an absolutely almighty effort to be able to do it. So we're going to need everybody that's watching the show right now to make sure you press that like button. There's over 1,500 of you watching. There's over 1,000 of you on YouTube, over 500 of you on social media. If you do listen to us on social media, please do dedicate your time to watching us on YouTube. It helps us out so much more. And of course, if you could hop over to YouTube and drop a like on the video. Kevin says 2 babies. No. Yes, I said no to the 1, so it must be 2. No, kids is still a little way away. I'm 30 this year, believe it or not. But yeah, kids is still some way away, I think. Thank you for your listenership. Always appreciate your time. As Joe said earlier, stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.